What's up, Legion, and welcome back to I Still Call It a Lariat. We are a pro wrestling podcast. I am, of course, your fearless leader. My name is Steve Zaff, and joining me today, my two friends, they are back. That's right, Howard Morgan and Mozart Fontaine. First, I'm going to get with you, Howard. How are you doing today, buddy?
Fantastic, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. You know I love talking wrestling, and I love talking wrestling with you guys. And Mozart, you are still my new rising star of this show. How are you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. I can't believe that. Like, I'm so humbled by that. When you told me, I was like, man, I had to read it twice, and I'm like, yeah, come on, you're kidding me.
No,
No, that's really cool.
Your interview organically is doing as many views as Hogan's our Hogan show is.
Oh, that's
which
really
is
cool.
Insane. That's insane. So today we are going to talk about, it's going to be a fairly generalized topic. It's going to be the state of professional wrestling as we see it. We are going to cover what I consider the three big brands in the USA, and that would be TNA, AEW, and of course, the market leader in the world, the WWE. Before we get into all that, I do want to get into, we have not promoted these in a while, so I'm going to get into our nonprofit organizations that we help out with, guys. The first one is Tap Cancer Out. It is a series of jiu-jitsu tournaments that helps out with varying corporations such as Alex's Lemonade Stand, American Brain Tumor Association, Isabella Santos Foundation, Little Pink Houses of Hope, Camp Sunshine, Christopher Haven, the Sidney Kimmel Comprehensive Cancer Center at Johns Hopkins, CureCervicalCancer.org, First Descents, the Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, and of course, everyone's favorite, it is back, Tom Coughlin's J Fund. It's been so long since I've said it. I'm sorry, guys. I had to get that one out. The other one that we always like to put on here is we like to promote the American Red Cross and their disaster relief help. Guys, this is a big one for me because one of the other friends of the show, Mr. Brock from Minnesota, actually had a situation where his house burned down a couple of years ago. He shared the situation on the show, and he said within just a few hours, the Red Cross was there helping him out, getting him prescriptions,
Wow.
getting them with I think they gave them right off the bat like a $500 like Visa gift cards so that they could get a hotel room for the night, so that they could get whatever toiletries they needed, all the necessities. And every time he called, he said they were super helpful and made sure that whether it was something as minor as contact lenses or something as major as a needed prescription, they were there helping them out. And this is one of those organizations that if you don't need to help them out monetarily all the time, sometimes you can volunteer time and things like that. So again, one of those things we do highly promote people helping people on this. One of the other ones, this one is going to be personal to you guys, is we still have up Papa Stroh's GoFundMe account on there. Please, for those who don't know, this is the Maestro from WCW. He is a big part of Howard and Mozart's lives, and he has had some health issues in the recent history. So we always put up his GoFundMe. And the other GoFundMe that we always have up is another one from the pro wrestling world, and that is Chris Bay. And for anyone who does not know Chris Bay, I know it's been a little while since we've spoken about him. He was performing a pretty routine move, for him at least. It was a springboard cutter, but it's something that he's done a million times. And unfortunately, when he landed, needed emergency neck surgery. I have heard nothing but good things and positive outcomes coming from the Chris Bay camp, though. Everything from just positive outlook on his part. But these are people, Stroh and Bay, the fact that the wrestling community has come together to make sure that we have helped these guys out. It makes me happy to be a part of the wrestling community because of it, because I joke all the time that the wrestling world puts the fun in dysfunctional, but we also, I feel like we are kind of the most messed up fraternity in the history of the world. Like, no one understands wrestling fans like wrestling fans do. And at the same time, no one understands wrestlers and will jump to their aid like the wrestling world will. And again, being a part of this world for as long as I have, and Mozart and you have, and Howard, you've been a fan your whole life. Like it makes me feel good to know that we all kind of jump to attention for that stuff.
And just to your point, real quick, kind of off topic but on topic. I just listened to real quick. It was probably a 20-minute history of Paul Orndorff, which he was talking about Mr. Wonderful. And it wasn't until his son brought up how like Paul was literally ready to lose his house before he passed. Needed I can't remember the amount of money. It was like $10,000 literally by that Friday. And against Paul's wishes, his son put up a GoFundMe page, and it sputtered out of the gate, a couple hundred here, a couple hundred there. Then like that Wednesday before that Friday, it caught fire, and Chris Jericho stepped up, Randy Orton stepped up, and a lot of guys, literally people around the world stepped up and literally saved his house from going
That's
to a
amazing.
tax sale or whatever it was. But again, it was wrestlers looking out for wrestlers, fans looking out for who. Paul Orndorff's a hero of mine. I hated him at times. I cheered him. The roller coaster that he's supposed to take you on, he took you on. And
That's
unfortunately,
amazing.
he passed, but the community, like you said, this dysfunctional community rallied together and took care of one another.
Whew.
That's cool.
That's heartwarming, man. I love hearing stuff like that. Well, now that we've talked about some serious stuff, there's a rumor that we're supposed to talk about pro wrestling on this show. I may be the one facilitating that rumor.
I think you started it. I think you started that rumor.
I did say this is a pro wrestling podcast in the beginning. I guess we should talk pro wrestling. So the first promotion, I guess we will call it, first company that we will speak of is TNA Wrestling. I will assume in this conversation, though, I am probably the most well-versed in TNA, but I'm hoping that by talking by talking on this show, I will get you guys on the bandwagon with me, because as far as I'm concerned, TNA is like a piece or two away. Like, when you're talking about a sports team and you're like, oh, all they need is this.
Right.
And they'll be in title contendership. I think TNA is like one or two things away from possibly going after the number 2 spot. I don't think anyone's ever going to challenge for number 1.
No.
The WWE has way too much of a lead, but TNA puts on a good show. It's a classic wrestling show. And for guys like us who we understand what that means, I can follow the show. The show makes sense. The show flows properly. Now they are in they have their deal with WWE where they have their partnership agreement. And I'm going to pull up their roster real quick just to help us out with everything. And so their current world champion is Trick Williams. Trick Williams is obviously an NXT guy. He is a guy that I think has a lot of potential. He's a former Philadelphia Eagle. He's obviously a pro athlete level star, and I think he was a wide receiver. He was a phenomenal athlete. Plus, he's got size. He's about 6'3". He sits in that 220 to 240 range. You can see on him, he looks great. He looks like a star. What he has the stuff that you can't teach, right, Mozart? Like he's got the look, he's got the thing, he has the ability to talk. So I did want to touch on him a little bit. Obviously, he is still an NXT guy. I could see him getting called up real soon to WWE. Their other champion is also from NXT, which kind of makes me feel bad for them, but it's JC Jane. JC Jane for a real long time in NXT has been kind of the third wheel for every faction that she was in. And they're giving her a chance to shine, a chance to talk. And I think they're finally giving her a chance to speak a little bit more on, like, kind of, hey, you said I was going to be the easily beaten champion. I'm the third wheel all the time. Well, now I'm a double champion for 2 different companies. Their third major single star is this guy, Leon Slater. We're going to talk a little bit more on him later because their obvious biggest star in the world is Joe Hendry. Let me see if it'll come up for me. All right, Joe Hendry. I believe in Joe Hendry. This guy is a guy who I don't think that they were planning on the I don't think they were planning on the rocket ship being attached to him as much as it ended up happening organically. They didn't expect him to almost overtake the music charts off of Taylor Swift. You know, I think there were other guys they were planning on pushing at that point, and Joe Hendry wasn't supposed to be the guy, and then Joe Hendry became the guy, which is another thing with how TNA works. It works like a wrestling company. When something organic like that happens, you can pivot and make the change that you need to make, where unfortunately with WWE, they don't always have that option to pivot. And I think that could be one of the things that really cements TNA as a true number one. So Howard, I'm going to talk to you about this one first. Obviously, like I said, Trick Williams has a look. JC Jane obviously has a look. They're NXT guys or NXT stars, but TNA is getting has gotten a lot of buzz in the last couple of years, and is starting to develop as one of these almost like feeder systems to WWE. But like I said, I think there might be funding. It might be like a funding thing. And I would love to see a real number two come out of this. That's a real wrestling promotion. And I think they're a real wrestling promotion. And Howard, I always love getting your input on real wrestling because that's what me and you bond over is stuff like old NWA, old Mid-South, stuff like that. Like that's what me and you really talk the most about. And like you said, you brought up Paul Orndorff before. Like you said, one of my heroes too. I love Paul Orndorff. He's one of those guys that made you believe that he was kind of dastardly at times, but he was also built like a Greek god. So what are you going to do about it?
Right.
But Howard, what do you think about TNA? I know it's been a few years since they've been kind of anything, but I definitely want to get your thoughts on them just in general, maybe some of the stars. I can put up the roster page back up for you real quick just to give them. I mean, they have a lot of guys on there that are stars. Like their top male stars right now, Mike Santana. I'm a huge Mike Santana guy. I'm a big believer that he is the guy that was supposed to be Mike Santana right here. I think he was supposed to be the guy, and he's a true heavyweight. He's a true athletic heavyweight. 6 foot, 230, frog splashes, a little bit of lucha libre in there, but nothing too bad. And when he does a discus clothesline, he makes you feel like he's going to take your head off. So I think he's a future heavyweight champion. They obviously have other guys that work with them, guys like Cardona and the Hardys. So what do you think? You think they got they what kind of shot do you think they might have at? I don't think they're going to topple the powerhouse, like I said, but maybe be in the number two promotion.
And I think the only way to get to the number one, either promotion getting to number one is if tomorrow WWE closed up shop, closed their doors, and they were done. They're just a juggernaut. You know, their production is through the roof. But I kind of gave up on TNA a couple of years ago. I watched it when it first came out. You know, and that's kind of when I really got a lot of exposure, watching a lot of AJ Styles, you know, Samoa Joe, um, and I really liked Christopher Daniels was there, um, and I really liked it. I thought they had a lot of innovative stuff. Their X division I thought was fantastic, and then it seemed like it was kind of peaking, and then for whatever reason it went flat for a lot of years, and I kind of gave up on them. I'm thinking, well, if they're going back to, you know, and no slight to, you know, any independent wrestling show, but it looked like an independent show, but it was on TV, but it was lacking something. And yeah, I think this partnership with WWE is really maybe not that missing piece, but part of what they were missing. I think Joe Hendry is going to be a star for them for a long, long time because it did happen kind of organically. It wasn't supposed to happen. You know, he's just, and again, no insult to Joe Hendry, just a placeholder on the roster. You know, put out, come out, do your 5-6 minute match, and you're done for the night. But then he just kind of took over. Um, I'm a little torn with, you know, 2/3 of their champions being, NXT people. Um, but yeah, I do think like TNA is, like you said, is probably 3/4 of a piece away from really making a serious run. Not even not number one, maybe 1A. They're
I
good if they get
I
whatever that
definitely
piece
believe that.
is.
Yeah, whatever that piece is. So I will point out that they do have another singles champion. They have an international champion, Steve Macklin. That is definitely one of their guys. Leon Slater is obviously one of their guys. Macklin is a guy who spent time in WWE in their developmental. He's a Monster Factory guy. I've known Steve for a real long time. He is one of these guys that if you give him the ball, and I love the fact that he's the first international champion that they have for this, he's one of those guys that you can give him the ball and he can run with it. And when he talks, he makes you believe that everything that he's saying is real. So I love that. Obviously, the Hardys are their tag team champions. Hardy's kind of on their farewell tour as far as I'm concerned, but they're doing a lot of really good work for TNA right now. A lot of almost like ambassador work for them. And then Ash and Heather by Elegance. So Ash by Elegance is actually there. She's the former Dana Brooke from WWE, and she is a star. The funny thing is Heather by Elegance is the one that I have been I've been keeping more of an eye on because she balances it out as an actual indie wrestler and she's got actual true worker ability. So with that said, Mozart, what do you think about TNA? I mean, they do have some really good female wrestling stars as well. They have Tessa Blanchard, they have Masha Slamovich, obviously the two as we refer to them, the Ella Guy. I think that they have again, I agree with Howard. I think they're missing one piece, maybe two pieces that we don't really know what it is just yet. And then they're going to, if they get that piece, we're going to go, oh, yeah, there it is.
Yeah, I'm actually a little more familiar than I thought. I when TNA came out, I was all about it. You know, I watched it. You know, they had the weekly pay-per-views, and a lot of the guys that I was coming up with. You mentioned a lot of them, AJ Daniels, Low-Key was there for a bit. They were innovating the X division, right? So they kind of took that to a little bit more of a national stage than WWE was willing to do at that time. And I don't believe there was a. I think WCW was dying at that. I mean, it was a. It, you're calling this episode the state of wrestling. I think the state of wrestling is always, and I've gotten a lot of good debate on it, but I don't think the state of wrestling is all that great, and it's really not down to the stars or talent. It's wrestling as a whole has reinvented the wheel. So I think what TNA is missing is exposure. I think if they had a really good, because I'll give you an example. We talk about there's probably, I'm just going to guess, at least 20 hours a week of wrestling on TV.
I
They
think
don't
more
have
than
any
that.
real primetime spot. Yeah, I would easily, I would say. I've seen, I don't even know what channel it is, but I've been flipping through like late on like a Saturday night, like at 1 in the morning, and I'll see, oh, TNA Wrestling. I don't get the channel as part of my regular Verizon. I have like Verizon Fios, which you should get like, you
Everything.
have access to everything, but you have to
Yeah.
pay for the lesser. It wasn't a standard channel. So I think if they get a deal on a better channel, I like that the Hardys are there, right? Perfect place for these guys to kind of wrap up their career. They're still tied in enough with WWE. I know that they were running around, SummerSlam weekend. So I liked that that working arrangement. My only concern is WWE is always looking to further WWE, but I think the reality of it is there does need to be competition in wrestling, because you and I and Howard have talked about it. Once WCW died, everything just went, fire was out. It was done. The product was terrible. I mean, I know people that loved it, grew up watching it, were like, I'm never watching this nonsense again. Like, it got pretty bad. So with no competition, you get that factor. If they're trying to create a little bit of competition, that's good. But what's TNA going to get out of it? Don't kill them. For example, I remember I was just kind of getting back into watching it on TV, and they were introducing Joe Hendry. Got to be careful. Don't take your top guy and crush him by WWE's top guy. Give him something. Work creatively to get something out of the arrangement other than we're going to get some NXT people that we maybe couldn't use on TV, or we just didn't have. I mean, NXT is just full of people that they just don't have room to work onto the roster.
I, I think
That's
that might be one of the biggest things with the partnership. And
yes. Hmm.
I will say this from the WWE standpoint with NXT, I think it's a good thing for obviously them. Their partnership is a good thing for WWE, obviously,
Hmm.
because this eliminates them completely as competition, even though they never really were. The only
For
competition
now,
for the
yeah.
WWE is WWE at this point.
Yeah,
But
and I
one,
think that if they're trying to create the illusion, that's what I should have said, the illusion of competition, then they have a real shot at doing that, like they maybe should have done when they bought WCW, as you and I have talked, and Howard and I have talked off air, and through text and things. This is a really good looking roster. I know Steve Macklin too. He was on our Right Coast Pro roster for a little bit. I
yeah,
worked with him at the Monster Factory. Really talented dude, really nice dude. They got the Nemeth. So I'm always was a
the
fan of,
Nemeth.
of, of Nick.
I'm a big fan of Mustafa Ali. He was with WWE for a while now,
Yes. Hmm.
and the stuff he's doing now, I ignore the fact that he's a cruiserweight altogether because it doesn't matter, because the character work that he's done is so good that I believe that he could be a world heavyweight champion just because off of pure character work now at this point.
Yeah.
I don't notice that he's, you know, 5'9" or whatever it is, but all I notice is that he's athletic and he can do stuff, and he makes me believe the character that he's portraying. So I don't know what else you need to do at that point. Like that's kind of the job, right? That's how you elicit emotion.
Yeah, I think that you're right. I think throughout the history of wrestling, you've had guys that maybe weren't the biggest guys that you didn't really care or didn't really think about it, because their character work was their presentation, their persona was so good that they were so believable what they were doing that you didn't need to worry about it. And I always liked his work, so I'm glad that that's kind of working out for him there. Yeah, I mean, I think that's my interest is peaked about TNA, but for me personally, though, it's a matter of finding the time to watch all the content, and it's literally, I can tell you, for
So
me personally, it's impossible. You know.
so I will make sure for you guys that you have access to the TNA Plus app. So TNA Plus is actually the nicest app to work through because
Hmm.
they show the weekly Impact show.
Yeah.
And what's more is, yes, they cut out all the hard commercials. So TNA, if you watch Impact, it's an hour and a half of wrestling, a pure 90-minute wrestling show.
Okay.
Now, with that said, when they go and do like a picture in picture part of it, the nice part is they leave you on the show, not the commercial. So you still hear them doing commentary on the match during what should be their picture in picture, and the match just keeps going.
Oh, cool.
And you really don't miss much. I think it's one of the things that TNA does very well. So Howard Mozart, I wanted to bring up. So, like I said, their X Division champion is this guy Leon Slater. Um, loads of promise, loads and loads of promise. This is another guy, Casey Navarro. I think he's on the rise. He's a New Jersey. He's a former Jersey standout guy, a Northeast guy.
Hmm.
He has the work ethic, the character. He's small. He is very small, but he has that work ethic and that character about him that reminds me of, again, a Low Key, of a Ray, of an amazing Red. He reminds me of those guys where he's one of those guys that he made sure that even though he's small, he's at least in the best possible shape he could possibly get into. And I respect that about him. Like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm going to still get in here and I'm going to look like an athlete. I might just not be the biggest guy on the roster. And I respect that. And again, like you said, there's some heavy hitters. This guy, Jake something, is another one that has a real interesting look about him. He's a monster of a dude. There's some guys on here that could be heavy hitters in the world of wrestling if TNA is actually given the opportunity to shine properly. I do agree. One of the guys I wanted to bring up, and Mozart Howard. This is probably a guy both of us are real familiar with, and that's Frankie Kazarian is on there.
Oh, yeah.
And
I knew Frankie.
and Frankie is doing the best work of his career as far as I'm concerned. He has what we refer to as the Paul Rudd disease. He's aging backwards. He's however old he is, and he looks younger than he did in his first run of TNA. I don't understand how that happens. Like, he's still doing the grab the rope and the backflip out of the armbar move. Like, I'm like, how are you still doing this 25 years later, man? Like, and
he's a really cool dude, but he's been everywhere, Steven. He's also got the he's a guy who in my mind was never that, maybe this is just what I would see from a fan perspective. I respect him greatly, and as a person, he's a really, really nice dude, really cool dude, always treated me well. I don't think he'd be looked at as a top guy, but I don't know why either, because I think he's got a cool look. And I think his work is tremendous. And it might just be he's never really had that over the top persona. That's probably what it is. But he's just a really solid guy to have on a show. I mean, if I were, and you guys know I would never do this. We would take Steve's money and Howard's money and start a wrestling promotion. But he'd be a guy I'd want, even at this stage of his career.
See, I don't know if you realize this. Steve doesn't have any money.
and Howard has less than that. So.
Man, I'm even past the point of being so poor I can't pay attention at this point. Like, I'm
right.
So like I said, I definitely wanted to talk about Mustafa Ali. I definitely wanted to talk about Leon Slater. Another one that you guys might be aware of is the Rascals. They're a tag team. It's Trey Miguel and Zachary Wentz. Now, Zachary Wentz was in NXT for a little while. He was with basically the third member of the group. Him and Wes Lee is his name in NXT. They went there and formed MSK as a tag team. And it's funny because Trey Miguel, Zachary Wentz, they very much feel like the new high flying tag team that we could have. They're the young guys. They're kind of good looking. They have a rocker feel about them, like Shawn Michaels, Marty Jannetty rockers. Like, I wouldn't say they're necessarily the Rock and Roll Express. Like, I don't get the Ricky Morton, Robert Gibson vibes off of them, but I definitely get that high flying feel where Zachary Wentz, especially, I'm high on him. It might just be because I know him and I'm kind of cool with him, but he's a bigger cruiserweight too. He's a 5'11", 6-foot guy sitting in that 210, 215 range and just happens to do amazing high flying stuff. At some point, I'll send you a link for it so that you guys can see his, he calls it the UFO cutter. And essentially what he does is he grabs like the wrist lock and then springboards up to the top rope and does a springboard off of that's taller than like the 15-foot ladder that you see in like the TLC matches, and then comes down with the cutter. And it's so high and it's so different. It looks like such a different move that you're like, that might be the most exciting finisher I've ever seen in my life.
That's cool.
And he gets such height that I think that's what protects him from getting hurt off of it, because he can control his fall so nicely. But it's such a cool move. But like I think we all agree, their TNA whether it's production value or whatever it is, they're that one or two pieces. Like, hey, we need a wide receiver and we need a right offensive tackle, and all of a sudden we're going to be in the playoff picture. We're going to be in the championship picture. I think that they're right there, and for that, I think they can challenge the next group that we're going to talk about very easily, because they, like I said, I think their weekly television product overall is still better. It just needs a better production value. And that next group is going to be AEW, the current number 2, with owner Tony Khan. I'm going to, because I know none of us are super AEW fans, I'm going to refrain from bad-mouthing AEW at all today. I'll leave that to you guys, because I know it'll happen. But the AEW, the current AEW top stars are, our world champion is Adam Hangman Page. Let me see if I can pull that up for us. All right, so we have Adam Hangman Page. Our women's world champion is Toni Storm. We do have a lot of people involved in this. I believe that the biggest stars of AEW, it's a 3-way tie on this one. I think it's Will Ospreay, I think it's Kenny Omega, and I think it's MJF. I think they are easily the 3 biggest stars that this company has on a huge roster. Like, look at this, guys. This is no longer the champion. This is just their men's roster. I'm going to scroll down for you guys. I'm still going. I'm in the B's. For a 6-year-old company, this is a large roster.
Yeah, I think that's where they lose me, because, man, when they launched it, I was so excited for the product, because, again, I knew a lot of the guys. I thought, okay, here's another place for guys to work and make a good living. This roster is way too big, and it's also there's a lot of incoherence with the booking. The talent, for the most part, I mean, wrestlers are good, can perform, but the booking leaves me befuddled, and nobody can ever catch it up for me or make it make sense to me. It's the but this, but that. If you had seen this, and I'm like, it doesn't matter. You shouldn't have to see every single little thing to turn on your TV, easily follow the program that's going on. And I do think there's that little bit of a mindset that floated into the company where there's a little bit of the shock and awe. There's a lot of blood. There's a lot of kind of adult content, which alienates a certain age group. So it's never, for me, about particular talent. It's about, the way it's managed, the size of the company. Like, I'm just looking at that roster, and I didn't realize it was half that big. It's way too big. I mean, because realistically, with really I think they have 2 shows, right?
They
There's
have
no
2
way
actual
that you
shows,
can.
and then they have 2 actual shows, and then they have Ring of Honor stuff, which, unless you're
That's right.
watching
They
the
have the
Ring
Ring
of
of
Honor
Honor
app,
piece too.
yeah.
Yeah, it's too much.
So
Yeah.
our
I think
top
that's my
stars.
overall is
What?
just too much. But then we'll delve in.
I know someone's probably going to argue with me over who their top stars are, but these are the top male stars that I have listed here. I feel like this is a pretty good listing of a couple of their top guys. Obviously, Swerve Strickland. I think Swerve Strickland is as good as anybody in this world, but I also think that there's too much up and down with what he does. Again, storytelling stuff.
Yeah.
I think Ricochet has actually been revitalized in this company.
Yep.
Ricochet being kind of a psychotic nerd in this company kind of works in this sense. It's weird that him going heel, because he's such a natural baby face with the way he wrestles, but I think his natural demeanor is that of a heel. I hate admitting this, but Kazuchika Okada is one of their biggest stars. When you're paid that much money, you're a star. Like, that's kind of where we're at in the world. Like, and then these are going to be the 2 guys that I think that Howard, Mozart, I think you guys are going to not want to hear these names, but the fact of the matter is they are considered by the AEW faithful to be stars, and that's going to be Darby Allin. And the other one is Jon Moxley. I don't want Jon Moxley.
Going to come up.
I see. I knew they were going to be the ones that you were gonna fight me on. So here's my thing with Darby. If Darby could focus on wrestling and just wrestling, he would be their Jeff Hardy. He would be their rock star guy, their alternate rock, their Nirvana guy, their alternate rock guy, their guy that shouldn't be a star that is a star somehow. The problem is Darby Allin took 6 months off after Sting retired to go climb Mount Everest. I can't push you like that, man. Like I can push a 160-pound wrestler. I can't push a 160-pound wrestler that isn't there, though.
Yeah, that's kind of a strange dynamic. Yeah.
And again, like I said, he's not. Like I said, the look of him. Not Danhausen, although that's close enough. Like I said, you can kind of see he's got that Jeff Hardy appeal to him. And his promos, he's realistic on his promos. I think the best thing was him working with Sting at one point.
Yeah.
Howard, I'm going to ask your opinion on these guys real quick. So obviously Moxley, they view him as a star. I think he needs to stay away from the world title. But the other guy, the other people. So I'll go into the female stars a little bit too. I think Megan Bayne is a star. I think Willow Nightingale is a star. And again, I think her in-ring work is good. I think her promos need a little bit of work. But when you're paid that much money, you are a star, and that's Mercedes Moné. So, Howard, I'm going to get your opinion on AEW. What are you thinking with what they're doing over in Jacksonville, let's say, in TK land?
I mean, I watched AEW early again, and then to me, at least, maybe it's just because I'm old. It got a little too hard to follow. Stuff wasn't making sense. The storytelling, I don't think was there. And again, I'm not a big Jon Moxley fan. I think he should stay away from the world title picture. I don't care if he ever holds it again. I don't know what the appeal is with the fan base with Jon Moxley. I don't get it. I don't know. Again, because I'm old. I think Willow Nightingale has been a star. I think she's just, I don't want to say like they have something against her, but I don't know that we've really seen everything that she can do in the ring. I think there's a lot that she can still do. I think they owe it to her to give her that opportunity to show you, hey, listen, here's what I can do, and let her do it. Again, they TNA did it with Joe Henry. It wasn't supposed to succeed, but it did. Give her a little more freedom. And listen, if it fails, you can always say, hey, well, at least we tried. We tried to do it. It was a failed experiment. But man, if it takes off, oh my gosh, what do you have?
I mean,
the hottest wrestler, female. Well, not even female. Probably the hottest wrestler on the planet.
I agree with you, and I also agree. Sometimes you got to throw stuff at the wall to see what sticks. So, guys, I wanted to get your thoughts on this one real quick before we talk about anything else with AEW. One of our conversations before we got on air was a lack of tag team wrestling, lack of tag team divisions. I'm a big believer that TNA has the best tag team division out of the three promotions that we are going to speak of right now. Now, I'm going to point this out. The Hurt Syndicate, Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin are the AEW tag team champions. Now, Mozart, you and I have spoken about things like this. Howard, I know you and I have spoken about things like this. I don't know a team that I could believably put in there with Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin that are going to whoop them. And I'm gonna go even further by, I believe they actually have a listing of their tag teams. There might be a tag team division listing on here. There is not. All right, so let me pull up some of the people. So you've got like Toa Leona and whoever his partner is, who are like two basically fake bloodline guys that are going to go at. Yeah, they're big enough to face those, but I still don't believe that they can beat up Shelton Benjamin and Bobby Lashley. Like there's not a world where I don't know two guys that can beat up those two guys. And or like, all right, let's see who else. Okay, we've got the Young Bucks. That'll be a good look on that one. The Young Bucks are what they consider stars. They're not going to put the Bucks aren't going to put themselves in the ring with the Hurt Syndicate because they're going to want to do their match, and Benjamin and Lashley are going to go, no, we're not doing that. We're going to do stuff that makes sense, especially with MVP being their third man, their idea man there. They're not going to do the super flippies. I mean, you could make the argument, God rest his soul, that if Jay was still alive, the Briscoe brothers could be in there with them. And you could say that
FT probably the only believable team.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I maybe FTR. I think FTR could be believable in there. And don't get me wrong, I would love a 3-way tag team feud between FTR, the Briscoes, and the Hurt Syndicate. If I could see that in 2025 or 2026, if that was still an option, hell yeah, I tune in every week, and I think you could push tag team wrestling to the moon at that point. But like this guy, Isaiah Cassidy, he's part of a tag team. Do you believe that they can fight the Hurt Syndicate? He looks like he's 21 years old because he's like 21 years old. Bobby Lashley is a grown man. Bobby Lashley is 3 grown men. Let me change that. Shelton Benjamin is possibly the real best kept secret in pro wrestling. Who else do we have? We have Darius and Dante Martin. They're top flight. Okay, they've got this high flying gimmick. They're not going to fly around enough to beat those guys. I actually think that Colton and Austin Gunn, Billy Gunn's sons, they have a really good look about them. I think they have a good demeanor about them, and they have a star ability that you could find a way to do it. But again, you have to find a way to do it, and you need to have a wrestling mind promoting that. You need to find a way to make it work. But like I said, who do you have that beats these two guys?
So here's the interesting thing. If I'm looking at the roster and refamiliarizing myself, you have to make makeshift teams to do that, like Big Bill and Samoa Joe. You got to have guys that are big guys that, and Joe's believably tough, so you could believably see that, but again, they're not a tag team. So if you're pushing a tag team division, how do you say two guys who've never teamed before, or this is their first time, would be good enough to outshine the Hurt Syndicate as a team? And that's where the problem is coming, because again, and I'm very, very familiar with the Briscoe brothers. I was around when they were being trained. I was their very, very first match. When you talk about big man, small man team, yeah, they could make that believable because, and I'll tell you why, because they were trained and they understand basics and wrestling psychology. So one of the things that I always loved about their style is that they weren't afraid. They could crash and burn. They could do some crazy stuff, but they were also pretty solid technically from just a flow standpoint. And that's where they were more like the Rock and Roll Express than say the Young Bucks wouldn't make a good.
I agree.
I don't think that would be a very good match to watch either if I'm pairing up teams. But I would love to see, as you said, God rest his soul, if Jay were still with us, that match, because they're tough enough to believe that Bobby and Benjamin could throw, and Shelton could throw them around. But they're also believable enough that they could pull off of a win in a very Ricky Morton-esque type of way.
What the Briscoes have
I
with
absolutely
the
believe
Briscoes
that.
is that
But I like to look at a
that
lot of
that
this
that
roster. It's like if I'm making a tag team now, like, and I'm just picking guys, that to put together. I think that's your point, Steve. Is there's a lot of talent, but not as a team that anybody, not as a functioning team that I've seen or know of, where you could have a viable tag team division. Like there's, it's almost a double-edged sword. Like you don't really have any choice but to run with Bobby and Shelton as your champions. I mean, you could put together. God, I'm going to say this, and this could easily crash and burn, but I'm going to assume that they would still want to put on their working hatch. Edge and Christian could pull off a believable match with them because of the level they've worked all their careers.
I
Right.
completely agree with that, and
Outside of injuries.
it seems like that might be a road that we're going. It looks like we lost Howard. We will see if he comes back on, but I think we'll just keep going with this conversation.
Oh,
So
okay.
like even right here, so they have a 6-man championship, the trios
hmm
title as they call it, which I'm sure
I
that
don't
come
see any need for those. I mean, that's a
I
whole
see
different.
no need for this, but if you put
No.
Samoa Joe and Powerhouse Hobbs together
Yeah.
against the Hurt Syndicate,
Then it's believable.
that's believable. Another one that I
hmm
think would work is if you combine two guys that were either former world champions or world championship caliber. So in
Yeah.
this case, I will put it this way. If you take Swerve Strickland and you team him with Will Ospreay, I think that's one of those teams that, because they're world championship caliber guys, you could put them in there with the Hurt Syndicate.
Will's the guy that I like to watch because he does like I feel like I don't know I've never met him in person, so I don't know what his actual size is, but he looks to be a little bit bigger, but he floats like a feather, does some really innovative stuff. So yeah, I could see that style meshing real, particularly because you've got Shelton on the other side who can kind of do anything
Who does
and
everything.
but everything from you know catch wrestling to high flying, like he's pretty badass. Bobby is a legit fighter. Bobby's got a really legit background too. Um, boxing, wrestling, excellent look. I know I always thought he was really underutilized. So there's a
Bobby Lash
believable.
and for as big as Bobby Lashley is, he moves very fluid.
Oh, he's an
Like it's
athlete. Yeah,
scary how someone that big can not just fast but agile, like very fluid movement. Mozart, the last guy I want to talk to you about on AEW is this guy right here, Kyle Fletcher. I am
Fletcher.
hi- I
He
am
just came
high
on
on
my
Kyle.
radar. Yeah, talk to me about Kyle because he just came on my radar
So
probably way too late.
I'm so Kyle Fletcher is 26 years old.
Okay.
26, maybe 27 at the oldest. Welcome
hmm
back, Howard.
sorry about that, guys.
No worries. So
Hey,
Howard,
Steve, I
we're
don't know if you know this, but Howard hung up on Sam Houston a few weeks ago. Now he hung up on himself. So let's just put that out there.
It's karma, baby. It's karma.
oh, that's how that works. All right. So Mozart, you were saying that Kyle Fletcher is new on your radar.
Yeah.
Howard, I
hmm
I don't know how on your radar Kyle Fletcher is for you either. Kyle Fletcher, this is what I'm going to say about him. He's Randy Orton.
That's a
Yeah,
pretty big
yeah, I would
name.
agree with that. Absolutely. Yeah, he's been on my radar for a little bit.
So
Cool.
so Kyle Fletcher in the last year has done as much as he can to make his body look as good as it possibly can. He's got the full sleeve tattoo. Mozart, to give you
hmm
a look at him, he's like I said, he's
Got a good
26 or
look.
27 years old. He's a young guy, 6'4",
Oh wow,
235, 240 pounds.
good size. Okay, cool.
Flows around the ring, can fly, has that Randy Orton S type drop kick ability to him, that
Oh
athlete
wow.
about him, and throws what I consider currently to be the prettiest brainbuster in wrestling. The
Oh
issue
wow.
that I have with what they're doing with Fletcher is they let people kick out of his brainbuster.
That's a fundamental. It's just a. It,
I
I'll
I
go so
think,
far as to saying it's killing wrestling with this kicking out of finishing moves and having finishing moves that don't look like finishing moves that are finishing moves, if you follow what I'm saying. A
yeah, exactly.
brainbuster, and if he's delivering it that beautifully. Now, he came on my radar because I saw a clip of him maybe a week or two ago on one of the social media feeds. I'm like, oh, who's this kid? And I liked his look, and I was like, oh, he moves well. But that's all I knew about him. And I'm like, why do I not know who this guy is, right? Because I try to keep, obviously not well enough, but yeah, I think that protecting your finishers and booking are two absolute imperative things in wrestling, and AEW fails miserably at those. And I'm not going to
I,
say that WWE, when we get to that, is doing stellar either. So
I completely agree. Howard, you said you're familiar with Fletcher. I think this kid could be hot. I think this kid is kind of how we said TNA is one piece away. I think Kyle Fletcher is one producer away from
Yeah, absolutely.
figuring it, from understanding exactly what it is that he doesn't necessarily know. Because like I said, 6'4", you deliver a brainbuster from 6'4". That's a serious move, and the way he hits it, I think if they let Kyle Fletcher's brainbuster be like Jake Roberts' DDT, we talk about Kyle Fletcher for the next 20 years the way we talk about Randy Orton right now.
Yeah, I just again maybe it's a producer way. I don't know why he's not already you know almost the guy, like right up there, top three guys, four guys in the company. Again maybe it's his producing or whatever, but yeah, a brainbuster from a 6'4" athlete, should put your lights out for the next week and a half, and it's not. And I think that is what essentially is killing him the most.
I'll put it to you this way: if Kyle Fletcher, 6'4", 200, let's lowball him. He's 230. Let's say 230. Still a big dude. 6'4", 230 is still a big man.
really,
And young and athletic, was sitting under Shawn Michaels right now with that brainbuster that I just described, which, by the way, I will send you guys a video of his brainbuster when we get off the air so that you can understand how
yeah.
beautiful it is.
That's one of my favorite moves to hit and take, to be honest with you, because I think it's the devastating look of it when it's done right.
It's
It should be a
so
finish.
devastating
Do
looking.
you remember too? And I'll go on a tangent, like because I always this is how I kind of defend my position on finishes, and I've had conversations with peers and fans when we sit down and we get a chance to talk at shows about, oh, it's just evolved. I'm like, it's evolved, but you can't have this business without finishers. It
I
just doesn't exist. And
I agree.
I go back to one of the greatest to ever put on a pair of trunks and boots, Eddie Guerrero. If Eddie can, number one, go on a losing streak like he did and be the most over guy on their show, then let's not be upset that we're winning and losing matches, because it really has. I'm not going to say it's nothing to do with your positioning, but it's really more about how it's done. And the other side of that is Eddie used a brain buster. Now, he chose not to use it as a finish because it set up a frog splash. But the psychology of that is you are not moving. You have no chance of moving on his frog splash, right? That's the basic psychology. So again, although Eddie, Dean, the guys of that area, your Jushin Ligers, that I'll even say Rey Mysterio, the really cool things that they did made sense. You can't do cool things just because you can do cool things. You can't Canadian destroyer, Mexican destroyer slash you pair away and destroyer everybody on the floor through nails, through shotgun shells, and kick out of it, and then tell me that Seth Rollins stomp is a finish. It makes zero sense. Matter of
Zero.
fact, is we'll get there, but even I don't know Seth, but I wish I did. I wish I knew him. I'd say, dude, why do you use that? You're so talented. Why would you? And I'm sure it's well because it's easy to give, easy to take. It looks brutal. It looks brutal in terms of you're doing something nasty, but it doesn't look like a finish when you're doing Canadian destroyers off the top rope through 6 panes of glass, and then they're still kicking out. You know what I mean? So that was my little tangent. I'm sorry.
No worries. No, I like it. Two guys I want to talk to you guys about before
Mhm.
we completely get off AEW, and that
Yeah.
is Kevin Knight, who again has this high flying ability, but he has
Mhm.
size to him. And I
Yep, I've
love
seen.
that. I love a guy that's sitting in that 220 range, that
Mhm.
6 foot 220 range, because the athlete in him makes me feel better about it. And the other one is Konosuke Takeshita. Konosuke Takeshita, as far as I'm concerned, is the best import from Japan that we've had in years. In years. I say it all the time. If you look at him, Konosuke Takeshita reminds me of Bolo Young. And
Yeah.
I use this example all the time on the show. And for the kids that happen to be watching us, if you don't know who Bolo Young is, go watch any Jean-Claude Van Damme movie and check out the bad guy in it, because he's the
Yeah.
bad guy in almost every single one of the movies.
Yeah, he totally does look like him. I knew
I
that.
say that about Takesha, and I mean that fully with respect. He looks like if he hits you, it's gonna hurt. And he's one of those guys that if they gave him just a straight, just normal lariat as a finisher, I would buy it. Because again, he sits in that same realm of being 6'2", 6'3", 230, 240, and just built solid. But apparently he's also, I think he's a former track star like Okada is. So he's got some legs under him, and he's got some speed behind him. Kevin Knight does, I don't know if you guys remember this from the original ECW days. Van Dam was doing it back then, where he would do the 5-star frog splash a lot of times, but he would twist in midair and do it.
Yeah.
Kevin Knight is doing that now, and it
Cool.
looks the same type of way. So these are two guys I wouldn't be surprised in the next couple of years. Keep an eye on them. If AEW doesn't do enough with them, don't be surprised if WWE comes a knocking and finds a way to do something with them. Or
Yeah.
if TNA gets pushed to that number 2 spot, don't be surprised if they go over there and they start doing something real, because you have a few more wrestling minds over there. And I think that's what it comes down to, is if you have that many wrestling minds on your roster, start listening to them.
That's what blows me away is I'm like, there's so many veterans there. There's so much talent. There's people producing, there's people training in every company that just know their stuff inside and out. But it doesn't always translate to what I'm seeing on the screen, or what I'm seeing in shorts, or what I'm hearing from people in reviews. And I don't know why. I don't know. It's certainly not the case with WWE, but I do believe with AEW there's a little bit of creative influence from some of the wrestlers, and you can't. I know this firsthand. You can be part of the creative process because you're performing it, but you can't call the shots for yourself, or it ends up there's a conflict of interest. You know
I
what I mean?
completely agree.
I would never want to call the shots for myself. I would say, hey, I think I could work with this person, or you know, Jim was great at doing it. Almost with all of us, he would bring us under the learning tree and kind of teach us how to book. He'd be talking about the show and why he paired somebody up with somebody else, and what's going to happen. And you get really wrapped up. Oh man, that's going to be really cool to see. And by the time he's done talking, I'm not even wondering what I'm doing. And he's, oh, and by the way, here's what I've got lined up for you in the magnets or something. Oh yeah, that's really cool. Okay. What if we did this? So there's that what if type of thing. But
Yeah.
he's always got the veto power of let me. And I would always know with Jim and Jim Kettner. I'm speaking of one of my mentors, by the way, for the listeners who founded ECWA and broke me in. Would always say, if Jim said, "Well, let me think about that," I knew the likelihood wasn't good, because it would have to resonate with him right away. Now there were times when he might come back as maybe say a Tony Khan. I just feel like anybody, and I don't know because I'm not there. Anybody that goes to Tony Khan with an idea gets on TV, and I'm like, whoa, 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 because I've
I
just seen
agree.
stuff that's like, whoa, makes no sense. It's not believable. It's violence for the sake of violence. It's gratuity for the sake of gratuity. It's over the top for the sake of over the top. None of it furthers a storyline. Not a bit of it. So, and that's not just an AEW problem, but I think that that's where AEW lost me. They went from a grittier look production wise, which I really liked, to oh, I'm going to mimic WWE. What type of cameras are they using? What angles are they using? What are they doing?
I
And
agree.
now it looks just like a
It
really
it looks
poorly.
like it looks like diet WWE,
That's a good word for it. It does. Yeah, yeah.
but
It
The
but
doesn't look
Timu
good.
version of WWE.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
Timu WWE. It's WWE light. Not quite WWE enough.
I
Uh,
wish everybody, but I just want to say too, like I'm talking purely from a fan and even maybe a little bit from a business perspective of what I might do to improve the overall business. These are things that, I don't want to just, oh, this is terrible, that's terrible. It's not. It's that, well, there are fundamental things that are wrong from what we're trained as, Steve, and from what Howard, you've learned as a really good interviewer and kind of a lifelong fan. There are things that we know should never happen that you pretty much see happen weekly, and we're like, why? How does that get there? That's the question from if any of our listeners are fans and are kind of wondering where we're coming from. It's like, well, fundamentally, that is incorrect. And if
yeah,
you say, well, it's not, I'm telling you it is.
it is. And
And yeah.
if you have to, like, I've said this at shows to other
Hmm.
people. I've had conversations with guys that other workers where we
Yeah.
weren't on the show and we were
Right.
watching something and we're like, okay, this doesn't make sense. And a lot of times we're saying it and we're at a show that is primarily based for kids. It's a local kid indie show.
Yeah.
And we're like, all right, well, I don't understand how you expect a child to understand this, where I'm a grown man who's in this business and I don't understand what you just did.
Yeah.
So with that said, though, let's move on to the Juggernaut.
It's easy to convolute a story, though, isn't it, guys? Like when
Yeah,
you really want to just keep it simple.
I mean
Whatever you're trying to convey to the audience, the simpler the better.
and I feel like I said, let's move on to the Juggernaut, which is the WWE, and they
Hmm.
keep their stuff about as simple as you can a lot of times. So we're gonna there's their roster page. So let's start off with their champions. First off, we have Vice President Cody Rhodes over here. Um, who is, let's face it, this is the number one championship. The undisputed WWE title is the number one title. If anyone thinks that the World Heavyweight Champion has any claim to it, I will put it to you this way. CM Punk wrestled John Cena 1 month before SummerSlam, lost, and then challenged Gunther for the World Heavyweight title and won it
And one.
before Rollins cashed in. You know what that tells me psychology wise? This is a number 2 title.
Hmm.
Congratulations, you have the World Heavyweight Intercontinental Championship.
Yeah,
The
they
World
do.
Continental title.
The World
This will,
Continental title. Now
yes, this
then,
will go back to my fundamental. There should never have been a splitting of the roster. It doesn't work. And there's also the fact that you should never have two top titles because you can't have two top titles by default. And to your point, Steve, they've done everything to show you that's the number two title by the shape of them. Now, I will go back and say that really they've splintered the lineage of both of them horribly if you're a
oh
real
yeah,
wrestling historian. But by shape of it, what it's supposed to be, they're telling us old school fans, Howard, myself, and you, that's the old NWA world title / WCW world title, and it's always going to be number two. That's my
I
issue with it.
I mean I totally agree. And to go along with what you just said, man, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Lucky Number 11.
No.
Yes.
All right, so
Yes.
there,
Great movie.
yeah, it's such a good movie. Well, there's a scene in it where the two lead mob bosses are talking to each other, and they're like, "Why would you double cross me?" And he goes, "Well, two guys are standing in a room. You can only look at one of them. They started looking at you, calling you the boss with their backs to me." That's kind of exactly what you just said. Is like, okay, you got two world champions. Well, who's the face of the company? Cody is.
Yeah.
Who's the number one guy? Cody is. Who's gonna run with The Rock in his presidential campaign? Cody is. Yes, I'm going to stick on the fact that Cody is going to be the vice president.
It comes down to, I mean, we're portraying or trying to portray all of wrestling across the board as, you know, as a combat sport, right? So in every combat sport, and even just the sports in general, you have one Super Bowl, one World Series, you know, one NBA championship. You know, you don't have, you know, two World Series. Like, well, you know, the Phillies and the Yankees did great, so, you know, and they made it to the playoffs, but maybe, you know, the Mets and, you know, and somebody, or, you know, the Mets and the Red Sox came really close, and we'll let them play for a World Series title too. No, at the end of the year, there's only one champion in every season.
Exactly.
And there can only be one men's champion. It dilutes the two, and like Mozart said, it's the old NWA title with its rich history that is being diluted and polluted at this point.
I agree. And now on the kind of the opposite side of this argument that you can make is, I feel like the two women's champions are actually on par with each other. I think Naomi is doing great work, and Tiffany Stratton is the person that they want to push towards the moon. Unfortunately, and this is going to be my issue with WWE's booking, they are booking Tiffany the way that they booked Cody. And I hate to say it like this, but Cody's title run, his first title run, it's hard to say anything about his second one because it just started, but his first title run was GD boring. There was no excitement in that run, and they're doing the same thing for Tiffany, who is a natural heel. Let her be a heel. She is a heel. But like they push her like she's a baby face. And the funny thing is we say it on the show all the time, the fans have gone heel. So if you let her be a heel, they'll probably cheer for her more.
Yeah.
I think Tiffany could be a good old school Ric Flair champion, defending against everybody. When it's a baby face, you're the heel, and I'm going to cheat, like Eddie Guerrero said, lie, cheat, and steal my way to victory. You know, when I'm the baby face, I'm not going to resort to those tactics. And I think she would fit great in that role.
I absolutely agree with that. I completely agree with you, Howard. Naomi, I keep hearing different rumors on whatever her injury, ailment, whatever is keeping her out is. From everything that I'm hearing, it sounds like it's going to be something that this title is going to become vacant soon, which that upsets me because of what type of good work she's really, really doing right now. I'm hoping that it is just rumor stuff. But like I said, she's been doing great work ever since they turned her heel. I think one of the best things about her going heel was she was able to slow down her style a little bit. I will say this, one of the breakout stars in pro wrestling in the last couple of years has absolutely been Dominic Mysterio. Dominic Mysterio is a guy who I get it. He grew up in the business, but he also is a guy who grew up in the business and gets the business. Hey,
when he hit AJ Styles with, you know, I guess he forgot I was a 20-year veteran. That remark just shows you how much he gets it, and how much he's really, think about how long he's been around the business.
Exactly.
It's entertainment, man. At the end of the day, even I think all sports, what we've all three talked about this on and off air, sports, everyone. And people are going to say, oh, it's not. It's no longer a sport when money's involved. There's things that can be swayed. There's people that can be bought. There's franchises that are paid for. There's marketable franchises, there's unmarketable franchises. When money is involved, it's now entertainment. It's not pure competition. And that goes across the board: boxing, mixed martial arts, wrestling, football, baseball. That's the nature of the beast, and he gets it. He's going to entertain you. That's
I
really what he's there to do.
I absolutely agree. Yeah, he knows. He gets it. So I'm gonna touch on NXT just a little bit. So the NXT champion right now is Oba Femi. Oba Femi is a specimen, and he's a special guy.
Yeah.
He's another guy who in the last year I feel like has gotten it. He understands he gets the job. He understands what the job is. The other one that I want to talk about is this Sol Ruca. Sol Ruca is a girl that I have been saying for a year now. They were just waiting to pull the trigger on. When you can do a backflip cutter off of the middle rope and that's your finish, and time it right every single time and make it look smooth and seamless, you have something special. She's one of those ones, again, she's like Hal Fletcher doing the brain buster. She could make her entire career off of that soul snatcher, and it'll be the RKO. Like somehow you'll pull it out of nowhere, even though there's 3 extra steps to it. I don't know how, but she'll do it. The other person that I really, really wanted to bring up to you guys for WWE, because I don't care what anyone says, he is the future of the business. No, not the idiot with the ponytail. I want to talk about Bron Breakker. Bronson
How can you not?
Recksteiner. I'm gonna bring this up because Mozart, Howard, I want all 3 of us to feel old on this one. Bron Breakker is 27 years old. He's
It's
27.
Unreal. I grew up watching Rick, right? I met Rick. His dad. He was always one of my favorites. Coming, we're talking Mid-South to UWF to once he went national with Rocket Promotions and NWA, WCW. There was this whole transit, and he was always an over. He was always really over, but he started to make it to that next level, right? And I think that you want my opinion? The only possible thing that can hold Bron Breakker back is get rid of that name. There's no reason, and I'll tell you the truth too. And you guys might think I'm crazy. That's what held Dolph Ziggler back. The name was stupid from the get go. He didn't have to use his real name. They could have done whatever they. That was a name that I would have vetoed. It wasn't marketable. It was dumb. The guy was way too talented to have a silly name. And this is coming from the guy whose name is Mozart Fontaine, mind you. There's nothing about. Well, let's face it. If I were a national guy, that would probably. I don't know. It's Bron Breakker though. There's no reason because
So
my dad wasn't Rick Steiner. You know what I mean?
No. So there was talk because their actual last name is Recksteiner.
Rick Steiner. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Rechstiner. Yep. So there was talk at one point before he got debuted as Bron Breakker. His real name is Bronson Recksteiner.
Yeah, exactly.
They were going to debut him though as Rex Steiner. So you would have
made a lot more sense to me.
So you would have had Rick, and you would have had Scott, and you would have had Rex. Yeah, and I thought that flows.
His name, as I found out, well, I knew, but his name is Rob. So
yeah, his real
went with his last name, and that's well known too. I'm not giving away a trade secret, but that would have been a perfect. See, to me, it was almost like I feel like somebody sits there and. It could have been Vince, maybe not, but there were times when I'm 100% sure, like Vince looked at Terry Taylor and I was like, let me just make him the stupidest gimmick I can possibly make, and let's call him the Red Rooster. I feel like that's what they did with Bron Breakker and Dolph Ziggler. Two guys that were way too talented to have names that you can't really market like you should.
I agree. And yet he's still getting over. Like Bron Breakker,
he's not going to not get over. There's no way he's.
I mean, look at him. He has a look. He can talk. He's so big and strong that even the parts of him that are green, he doesn't. It's almost unfair to be that big and strong because what happens is the moves that he should need a lot of experience to do, he's able to still do them because he doesn't lose his grip on you because he's so big and strong.
Yeah.
The other guy I want to talk about is his tag team partner now, and that's Bronson Reed.
Yeah, really good.
These two guys, they could be that tag team that redefines tag team wrestling a little bit because they're so big. I love the fact that they started breaking out the Steiner Bulldog in their matches.
Oh my God, I know, right? I saw that the other night, and I was like, okay, cool. I'm loving this. Yeah.
It's so good. I love that they're in there. It's hard to bash WWE because of the business that they're doing right now. But I think that some of their stuff is getting a little complacent, and it's maybe ran by people holding clipboards rather than people watching wrestling.
Yeah, I think if they sat down. Oh, go ahead, Howard.
Yeah, just back to Bronson Reed real quick. When he was, I'll say, first out, I wasn't a big Bronson Reed guy. I thought they brought him out to be this monster, and they kind of killed it. And of course, then he gets hurt, and then he comes back. And again, we talked about missing pieces and things that guys are a piece away. All it took, and I say all, but it was huge in his career, was pairing him with Bron Breakker and Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
And the guy's a superstar now. And the fans are eating it up.
Absolutely. I agree. I'll tell you what, I mean, like you said, he was one piece away. I think what started this before he got injured, the simplicity of what got him over at one point was hitting 5 tsunamis.
Yeah.
And he didn't need to do anything crazy. Think about what that finisher is. He doesn't even jump with it realistically. He's a 400-pound dude that comes down and makes himself look like he's a 400-pound dude that comes down on top of you. And that's all he needed to do to start getting over. And then he got hurt and he was gone for a few months. And then they paired him with Breakker and Heyman and Rollins. And all of a sudden it was working. It is working. And I look forward
it's funny. What just popped into my head was, I mean, you guys are familiar with Toy Story, right? With Buzz Lightyear and
yeah.
Well, when Buzz finally admits that he can't fly, it's just falling with style. It's all Bronson Reed does. From the top rope, he falls, but he does it with style. And it's great, and it looks devastating.
Yeah, it puts a different twist on his splash, because again, believability. I got everyone was laughing at me because I was like, nobody wants to see Big Show do a moonsault, and there was, well, I do, and I'm like, yeah, I don't.
I don't.
Nobody wants to see Bronson Reed doing a 5-star frog splash, man. You want to see that dude coming off like 400 pounds of avalanche.
Right.
Yeah.
The name is perfect. Like, this is what WWE does, Steve and Howard, that I think it just popped in my head to kind of take it full circle back to TNA. What's the missing piece? Again, reachability and just the marketing machine. Some of the things that WWE does to market, like he's punked Roman Reigns and taken his Air Jordans. I mean, and I'm sure that there's some type of deal where it's like Michael Jordan, somebody's making money off of that deal. He's walking down with a pair of, Nikes on his neck for 2 weeks.
I love it.
Right.
I love it.
Punked him. Yeah, it's the marketing from top to bottom on that. Say what you want about the Jelly Roll thing. I loved it. The crossover was amazing. The dude got in shape. The dude was, for a celebrity, pretty believable. And I tell you now, Howard knows this. I saw the worst punch in wrestling history the other night, the El Grande Americana. I was like, oh my God, I'd have fired him off of that show in a heartbeat. No disrespect to the talent. I hope that punch was on purpose. But Jelly Roll was throwing these beautiful punches for a dude who's trained for probably limited time for a few months. Again, their marketing, they know how to market to a mainstream audience. By comparison, AEW absolutely makes the mainstream audience run for the hills.
They market to their fan base.
What's that, buddy?
They market to their fan base.
Right, and that's a bad move. because it's a bad business move. Because what they think, and I suspect there's probably a lot of the guys in Tony Khan's ear, is there's a market for that. Well, you found it, you've tapped it, you're done with it. What are you going to do now? You know what I mean? Whereas TNA seems to be biding their time, taking their partnership with WWE, getting what they can out of it. Like I said, I think they have to be careful because you don't want all their guys being the guys who end up, just because you're on the WWE roster doesn't mean you're
You're better.
you should be beating a guy that's their heavyweight champion or their top guy or better, right? From a reality standpoint. But I think what WWE does real well is that market. Now, what I'll say before we move on, Steve, is what they do horribly is there's no need for 19 titles. That's
that's across the board. There's too many titles in wrestling across the board. Now, I understand the idea of having a set of titles for NXT. It's supposed to be a completely different promotion for you. I completely agree about there being too many titles just in wrestling in general. It's one of those things that Mozart, we've talked a little bit that you're a boxing guy too. I think there's too many boxing titles. There's too many different weight classes.
There's too many things contested. Yeah, weight classes were one thing back in the day because you had your legitimate weight class titles, but you've got organizations that are popping up. You've got this title, that title.
You have interim champions.
Interim champion never made sense to me. It just didn't. Like when UFC would pull that, I'm like, this is stupid. They're either the champion or they're not. Because
the funny thing is, the funny thing is I've become more of an MMA guy than I was ever a boxing fan, but I do love old school boxing. But they brought someone brought it up when there was an interim champion for UFC recently. I think it was the interim heavyweight champion. I think it was when Tom Aspinall won the interim heavyweight title when John Jones won the heavyweight title. And
I think you're right. I've lost complete interest in UFC. They lost me years ago.
And the fan base for UFC kind of jumped on it, and they're like, "This is stupid. I can't believe we would do this." And so one of the radio shows that follows UFC was like, this really just comes to the fact that UFC fans are spoiled because in the grand time of UFC being around like 30 years or whatever, there's been like 7 interim champions ever. And like he pulled it up, he goes, there's 7 interim champions in boxing right now. He goes, so
boxing is completely a joke at this point.
Oh,
I hate the sport. If somebody asked me personally, well, what martial art should I learn? Wrestling and boxing. Start there. Seriously. But the bottom line, that's my opinion, but I think that really is the basis of self-defense in fighting, right? Ground fighting, control of the body, and striking, right? Kickboxing.
Exactly.
But when you get back to what you were just saying, boxing's completely lost its credibility across the board.
Absolutely. I mean, well, it's like you've said too. Once there's money involved, it's entertainment.
Yeah,
you have to.
I think if you're a promoter in a supposedly legitimate fighting organization, which I would contest some of the fights I've seen in every organization as being completely legitimate, but what makes no sense to me is it's marketing. We're going to have an interim champion. No, you crown a champion.
Yeah.
Then when your ex-champion who had to vacate, which is why you would have an interim champion, the only reason that makes sense, comes back and you have 2 champions. Why? That's convoluted. That's confusing. That goes against wrestling booking 101.
It's so you can have a ladder match at WrestleMania 10. You can
have a ladder match at UFC and see who's which is what they're probably going toward. But you know what I'm saying? Like, just crown your champion, and you can still have, especially if it's supposed to be legitimate. Now, if you're pro wrestling and you want the show aspect, and that's probably where it starts to hurt the credibility, is if you want the show aspect, sure, have a guy walking around claiming to be the world champion, and then your world champion comes back and he's like, oh, no, dude, I never lost it. I'm still holding the gold. That's a great angle. But when you're a legitimate fighting organization, you're like, we're going to crown an interim champion. No, you're not. You're crowning a champion, period.
I mean, I agree.
When the champion comes back,
he's got to fight.
He's
got to fight. He's got to fight that guy.
He's
Uh,
got to. Yeah.
so I'm gonna pull us back to WWE a little bit on this
Gotcha.
one.
Sorry about that, man.
No
You know
worries.
me, dude. I'll go
I
down the rabbit
that's
hole.
my job. I reel us in. So I wanted to talk to you. I wanted to talk to both of you guys about this gentleman because
Yeah.
I mentioned him before we came on, and I said there was a couple guys that really reminded me of each other, and
Mhm.
this is Javon Evans. Now, if you remember, I said Javon
Okay.
Evans reminds me very much of Leon Slater.
Yes.
And he
Yep.
also he's
Good look.
like a small Kevin Knight. They're all kind of the
Mhm.
same guy, but they're also
Yeah.
very different. Javon Evans is one of those guys that is so good, and the stuff that he does, I hope no one starts copying him type of guy. He's one of those guys. Like, him doing this stuff looks awesome. If I watch 10 other people start doing the same stuff that Javon Evans is doing, though, I'm going to get really annoyed at those 10 other people.
That's
But
up to the promotion, though, man. They should protect their guy. If you've got a move set, everybody else shouldn't be doing the move set, right?
exactly. And I just mean even on the indies and stuff like that. Like, if all of a sudden I go to some random indie in Wisconsin or whatever, and I see 3 other guys doing exactly what Javon Evans is doing,
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, it's cool that he can do that stuff. And I guess it's cool that you can do that stuff. But everyone's going to associate you with him now.
Yeah.
And don't you want to stand out on your own? He stands out completely on his own. He has a Sami Zayn feel about him,
Mhm.
where you like heartfelt. You want to be behind him because for the most part, he's a third of the weight of everyone else. And you want to see him win at the end of that. I love Javon Evans. I think he's another one of these guys that's, I don't know, 21, 22 years old, and he's going to be the future of this business someday. Like, wait until he's 25 and he's got some man size on him.
Yeah.
And we're going to be talking about Javon Evans a lot differently.
He's the guy that I would hire with your money, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, if the money existed, yes. Another one I want to bring up is, actually, I'm going to skip this one. I'm going to go to Ludwig Kaiser. Now, I don't know who was under the El Grande Americano mask the day that you were watching, but Ludwig Kaiser is a guy that if I was holding the pencil, he would be the Intercontinental Champion right now.
Okay.
I'm
not familiar with his work.
All right, so I'll make you real familiar in a quick sentence. Ludwig Kaiser is a modern day Rick Rude.
Okay. Well, Rick Rude was one of my favorites.
Ludwig Kaiser, you can see he's got this look of disdain about him. He has this air about him. He's also shredded. He's cut from stone. He's not the big.
Okay. I see him. Okay, I do know who he is. Okay, I've seen some of his
He's
work.
he's not the biggest dude in the world.
Yeah.
But he is in great shape. Now, another thing that makes him what I consider the new school Rick Rude, and I will show you as soon as I can get up there. Yeah, here we go.
Buffering.
Yeah, sorry about that. So the other thing that makes him the new Rick Rude that will make other people hate him. Tiffany Stratton is his girlfriend.
Oh man, they should pair them up.
I think they should do something. I thought they should have done something with a lot of these people that they haven't. Tiffany Stratton is his girlfriend. Like, you have the blonde Barbie doll.
Yeah.
And the guy that and I'm not the only one who said it. It's funny because I said it on our show, and then I was having a conversation with a guy who's not on this roster right now that should be, and he said he's the new Rick Rude, and I go, yeah, he really is. So while you're here, Mozart, I'm gonna pull away that tab, and we're gonna talk a little bit about someone else that should be on this roster that isn't right now, and how we've thought it's a bit of a work, and that's Karrion Kross.
Oh man, I don't know the ins and outs of why things are done. Like I'm starting to understand the Excel management process. Whereas what I mean by that is you explained where they're looking at who makes what in terms of their downside guarantee, their salary, and what are we really doing with them on TV. But with Karrion Kross, there's such an upside to his look. I mean, Scarlett is just drop dead gorgeous. He's a really good looking dude who's also legitimately tough, which controversially or maybe not, I'll say that's sorely lacking in the big time. In terms of legitimate backgrounds
Yeah.
and even just being tough. We don't have many Harley races. We don't have, if any, we don't have any. I could
Uh,
go down the list. Billy
uh,
Robinson's car dodges.
you know what? I'll throw
Harry
him in there with
Font's.
another guy we were just talking about. He's Rick Rude.
Rick Rude was legitimately tough.
Was
Yeah,
legitimately would
the
punch you in the
guys that
mouth.
Eddie Sharkey trained, like the guys that came out of Minneapolis, were Nikita Koloff were really tough guys. The Road Warriors were tough dudes.
So, honestly,
Um,
you said Nikita Koloff. Cross
yeah,
kind of reminds me of Koloff. He
that's
reminds me of
awesome.
Nikita.
Yeah,
He's got that look, those
they
traps, and that
yeah.
ability to move. Howard, we're talking about how we all believe that the Cross thing is a bit of a work
I
in
hope so.
some way, shape, or form.
God, I hope so.
I
really
really
do.
hope so. I this is a guy who looks the way he looks. And I heard someone else say this, and I mean this with no disrespect either. Scarlett is one of the only female valets left in the world at this point, and left in, especially in WWE, like pure
Yeah,
valets. She gives Elizabeth vibes.
yeah,
And if you're gonna compare a valet to a valet, like that's kind of like I'm putting you on a pedestal at that point, because Elizabeth is the valet,
yeah.
and Cross, like we just said, he has that behind the scenes toughness. Like I don't want
Right,
I've been locked in a chokehold by Karrion Kross, and I don't want to relive
right.
that in my life, because he's a nice enough guy that I hope he never does that to me again.
Yeah. I
But
think that there's just but I hope though, I do hope it's a work. But how many times can we go to the well on that because they've made a mistake and realized it, or now maybe they didn't make the mistake and they're saying, "Oh, it worked once. Our truth. Oh, look at that. It was great. Let's do." That's the problem with wrestling and boardroom bookers is that
the
don't know wrestling is they'll keep going to the well until the well is beyond dry, and
so I do think that there is a difference in in the R-Truth and the Cross situation. R-Truth was a guy that we all loved. He was our happy guy. He's
yeah,
a
it
guy
didn't
that
make
made
sense at all.
he was and not just that, but he's also a guy that made the boys happy. He brought
Yeah,
levity to the locker room. Cross is our rebel. He's the guy that Paul Heyman is describing as stone cold, which I'm sure that is not rubbing other guys in the locker room as well. I don't care if it's a shoot or a work at that point.
yeah,
Having someone compare the guy that just got released to arguably the biggest star in pro wrestling ever, it's hard. Like that'll rub some people the wrong way in the locker room. And Howard, I know you immediately talked to me about this had better be a work. They had better be doing something with them. And one of the best parts about this is this book tour that he's on. His publisher has nothing to do with WWE. He's on a solo book tour. So he can really they can milk this a little bit. And I'm sure one of the things that they're going to be looking at is, well, no one was chanting "We want Cross." Was no one chanting "We want Cross," or did they drown out "We want Cross" at the last show?
interesting.
It's not the
Yeah,
first time they've done it.
Right.
Howard, what are you thinking? Are you thinking work or shoot on this one, or are you just hoping work?
I'm hoping it's someone that's, I don't know enough about, what WWE is doing or whatever, but God, I hope he's just on a book tour and this is a way to explain the book tour. And like I said, I hope he comes back. And I don't know if I shared it with both of you or for just with Mozart, that I hope he comes back however many months down the road and just tears through the WWE roster and just
I think he
destroys
should.
everybody.
Yeah, like let's push him to the moon. Let's give him a world title run or something like that, or push him to. If he's not going to be in a world title picture, have him tear through the top stars.
Right.
Have him tear through the Drews. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it on the air right now. Have him tear through Roman Reigns.
Absolutely.
It would be a really great way to. I mean, I've read. I don't know that Reigns is kind of on his way out as a full-time guy. It'd be a really nice way to move past the torch to another up-and-coming guy who's got that potential to be
Exactly.
another crossover guy who could be in movies, who could be because I think one of the things that you're probably looking for at that level now, I would think, and I know I would be, is crossover appeal. You know, we talked about Hulk Hogan, and nobody ever had that type of crossover appeal until The Rock. Nobody had the same appeal inside of wrestling and was able to transcend a little bit until Stone Cold. So it was decades later. What are we going to do in 20 years? Who's going to be that person? Because I don't see them right now. You know, maybe
That's the thing
Reigns.
is I don't know about in 20 years. Mozart, you and we all had this conversation, and I know like Liv is doing a movie right now allegedly,
Mm-hmm.
or was doing a movie. I think that okay, there it is. I think that the next person that we're talking about with crossover appeal is Rhea. I
I
think
know
it's
it.
Rhea.
I think so too. I never, the funny thing about her is she's breaking boundaries in terms of what
Let's pull that up
do
back.
men think is sexy? What do other women find is sexy and attractive, right? Because she's, you look at the pictures of when she first came from Australia and they first signed her, she was gorgeous. And now she looks vastly different, but still has that same type of appeal and crossover and unique look. It's modern, it's fresh. Like she's something special in terms of that crossover appeal, and I hope she gets that at that
I
level.
I don't. I have not watched much of the WWE Unreal on Netflix.
I've
I
seen that. Yeah.
but I have seen one line from it, and this is something that I completely agree with. Triple H
Mhm.
says to her at one point, "You're not just our top women's wrestler. You're one of the top stars in the world right now. Doesn't matter
Yeah.
if you're male or female.
That's
She
right.
is that." Um, I completely agree with that. I think Rhea is about as crossover as you get. I think there might be one or two other people that, honestly, I think some of the crossover stars that we could have for wrestling right now are not necessarily big stars in wrestling. I think they might cross over to movies or something like that, but they weren't world champions.
Yeah.
So with that, guys, I'm gonna go over a few stars, in my
Awesome.
opinion, that are on. They have a lot of promise. They're gonna. I think they could be something big in the next few years, or they should already be big, but someone keeps not booking them properly, whatever the issue is. And it's not just one person not booking them. So right here we have the Northern Armory. Eric Young is the lead of this group, but his tag team, Sinner and Saint. This is Judas Icarus and I'm sorry, I have to check his name again. I always forget one of them. Travis Williams. These guys remind me of a very, very young, like British Bulldogs type tag team.
Mm-hmm.
They like they have that. They're very technical, they're very fast, they're very athletic. Possibly a Midnight Express, like a Bobby and Stan type situation. I could see them being that. Another one that I want to go with is I'm going to go up here to Indy Hartwell. She was released and she's come in and made a lot of waves in TNA, and she's got a few things. Again, she has those things that you can't teach. She has size. She has a look. Um, I think both of these I think these are the ones from TNA that I'm really, really looking at in the next few years. We might be talking about these people. I've already talked to you about Ludwig Kaiser. I'm gonna move, and I've already talked to you about Jake something a little bit. So I'm gonna move us over, just because I'm gonna keep us moving along a little bit, and I'm gonna go over to AEW because there are some guys in AEW. Let's see. Here he's Anthony Bowens. Anthony Bowens is a Jersey guy, and Mozart, you might have met Anthony Bowens
I know
in
Anthony. I worked on. He was part of our Right Coast Pro roster here for a bit. He's really good. Nice
I've heard
dude.
nothing but good things about this
Yeah,
kid,
super
and
nice guy. Yeah, really good in the ring. But his look, he looks like an athlete. He moves like an athlete. So there's credibility behind his work.
I if I could critique one thing, if I ever got in a room with Anthony Bowens and I could critique him personally, and he would accept my information,
Mm-hmm.
I would almost say he needs to pull back a little bit. And I don't mean in the ring. I think in the
Yeah.
ring, he does amazing. I think he, out of the two guys from the Acclaimed, he's always the yelling guy. And I would love to hear him give a promo that was a little calmer. And I think it might endear him to people again.
Yeah, I don't remember if I heard it. I'm sure he did promo work with us, but I don't remember. And I've only seen limited stuff with him. So I'm sure that's something that could probably help him, connect with the crowd a little bit more.
The next one I want to talk to you about, Mozart, this gentleman right here, and that is Mr. Rhea Ripley, otherwise known as Buddy Matthews.
Yeah. Yeah, Buddy was, I was surprised that they let him go a while back. That was another one. It's like, there's an upside to him, and he looks. I remember his work being pretty solid. So, again, I don't know what the
I think
the
they just didn't
motivation
have.
behind somebody being released is, but yeah, it
I
was
think
kind
they
of
just
weird.
don't have any. They didn't have anything for him, but
Yeah,
he's one of those guys that he should be booked higher up the card than he is, even in AEW.
yeah. There's because again, if you look at his fundamentals, what I'll say is, I don't mean it as disparaging, but what I'm finding is that guys that came from WWE were probably signed for a reason to begin with. And when they let them go, it's probably not because they decided all of a sudden they were terrible in the ring or whatever. It's like you said, they probably didn't have a spot or whatever. And I think that AEW kind of sticks a little bit with some of the homegrown guys with more of an independent feel that don't maybe know psychology as well or don't really practice it as well. That's the kind of niche product. That's the fan base that they seem to be going after
Exactly.
is, I'll have a barbed wire baseball bat, or I'll bleed, or I'll do some crazy, 27-star match that makes no sense, but that 2% of people will love it. But he's not that guy. He's more of a solid worker, who
I
can still
agree.
stuff.
This is the last one I want to bring up from AEW, and that's Julia Hart. So Julia
Hmm.
Hart's like 23 years old or 24 years old or something like that.
I did catch her a few months back, and I like what I saw. Yeah,
So
I'm
I don't
wondering.
know if she had. I'm going to say this as nicely as I can. I don't know if she's a future star because of her in-ring work, but she's another one that has that creepy vibe. She looks like a star. She could very much be a creepy valet again, like Scarlett is. And
Yeah,
sometimes in this business, you can attest to this, you have to play the hand that was dealt to you. And
yeah,
you can make a lot of money and be a big star and never win a world title and never be, a big name in the ring.
yeah.
Bobby the Brain Heenan is
No,
known
man.
for being a manager. There are very few people in this world who associate him with being a wrestler.
Right.
And he was a
But he
wrestler.
was. Hmm.
So the last people that I want to bring up they're actually going to be NXT people.
Okay.
And I definitely want to get your
Did we
opinion
lose
at
Howard?
least of their
Howard's
look.
in there.
All right, so let's see. Let's bring up this one. So this is the one I like. Wren Sinclair.
Okay.
Wren Sinclair, amazing in the ring, and unfortunately gets a little overshadowed by some people on the roster. And I think it's almost it's disappointing me that she is. I am huge on Wren Sinclair. I'm a huge fan of her work. I'm a huge fan of her work on the microphone.
That's important. Yeah.
She gets this character aspect where she's got the big eyes, and again, like, but she gets that part of it with also being very, very good in the ring. The way I would put it is she's got like the rest, like she can wrestle like Natty, and then also has like this appeal. I don't want to say of Liv, but like it almost feels like of like Liv Morgan. Like she's got that ability to like connect. And then the other one that I really wanted to bring up was
It's
who do
cool
we
that
have?
they have somebody in the pipeline like that because I like her look. I think she's unique in that she doesn't look overly what's the word I'm looking for? Like gothic or overly like
No,
she looks like she could be the girl next door, but she's really gorgeous. So the look is a little different than what they're presenting on TV right now. And with that kind of in-ring ability, like, because that's, man, you and I talk about that a lot. That's what it comes down to. Like, you don't always have to be, Lou Thez in the ring or Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, but your fundamentals and believability. And I think that for a long time, unfortunately, a lot of the female staff didn't have that.
yeah.
At one point, it was like Natty and maybe Charlotte. Like, other than that, it was like, whoa, what are you guys doing? Like, this doesn't even look real. Now they've got a whole slew of women that are coming up. Stephanie Vacker is really great in the ring. Like Asuka,
She's
you've got
so
all
good.
these people in the ring. These women who are as good as, if not better than some of the men who are as marketable, Rhea, or more marketable than some of the men. That's how you create a women's revolution, not just putting really, really pretty hot little blondes in the ring that are 3 foot tall and really aren't fighters. You know what I mean? Like you said, there's a place, there's a valet, but sometimes
I completely agree.
know where what role they should be doing.
I think like I wouldn't be surprised if we see Wren Sinclair do something great in this business. And it might just be me looking at her and I see everything from her and I'm like, man, she's so good. And like I again, she's another one that I think I'll send some stuff over to you guys of because she's worked.
What we can hope is that the people who are looking and making decisions see those things too, because man, sometimes they don't. And again, that comes down to a heavy roster, a not really knowing the wrestling business, um, a and look, for example, who knows if I don't know this, but who knows if Triple H knows who she is? You know what I mean? Like I think he's a lot more hands on than previous, but there could be a situation where upper management has no clue who she is, right? Like who's
Exactly.
that on the roster? I mean, I've heard stories of Vince being like, "Who's that? Oh, he worked. That's in it. Well, really? So if somebody's not aware of somebody, that could hinder them. But the people who are in power that can say, "Hey, we've got this somebody in the pipeline that we think is our next," however that decision made is to bring them up. I hope that they're doing what you said and seeing those things.
I really, really, truly hope so. Like worst kept secret in wrestling is that I love SummerSlam. Second worst kept secret in wrestling is that I love Wren Sinclair. Like I want to see her succeed. Like she's that good, man. Like it's
Yeah,
one of those things that when you see something and it's there again, like we were just talking about Cross. When you can
yeah.
see it and it's there
Hmm.
and someone isn't seeing it, the way you are, man, it's frustrating, especially in this business. She's one of those ones where I need her on the main roster in the next 2 years. She has it. Like, she has it. She makes me want her to win, and when she's in the ring, she really makes me want her to win.
Yeah.
So
Does she work babyface out of curiosity?
she is kind of babyface-ish.
I
She
wish
does.
they would define that a little bit more too, because
So
there's too much wish-washiness too with
so
babyface and heel a lot of times.
she is a babyface that was with kind of a heel stable that has gone babyface.
Mm-hmm.
So I would I would recognize her as babyface. She was with No Quarter Catch Crew, which is Charlie Dempsey, who is Regal's son.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He is phenomenal. And kind of the story behind her was, oh, well, they're teaching me to wrestle.
Yeah.
And she was the annoying girl that was like, can you help me? Can you help me? Can you help me?
Okay.
Can you help me? And
Well, she
like
had a
now I'm
role.
like,
I mean, yeah, persona.
now I'm like, I want to see more Wren Sinclair. I love Charlie Dempsey. I loved Miles Bourne. I love Tavion Heights. I love all those guys. But like when I get a chance to see her in the ring, I'm like, yeah, all right, let's do this. Yeah. She impresses the hell out of me. But guys, so we went way longer than I planned on with this, but this is the state of wrestling. So there's a lot of state and there's a lot of wrestling.
Howard and I we're gonna rename our show Down the Rabbit Hole for an endless amount of time.
Sounds good to me.
That's how that goes. Guys, I love having you on the show always. Like I said, there's Legion, there's some moves in the works. We can't tell them all. We lost Howard again. It's fine. We're probably leaving soon, so he doesn't get to sign off.
We've
Howard's back. Never mind. We got him back.
Howard,
all right, he's back.
I'll say it on the air for Steve because we really respect Steve's work. I could use a co-host tomorrow night. Howard's going to bail on me to go see a great band. So,
Howard, you could
if
you're around.
Doobie Brothers, brother.
It's the Doobie Brothers.
I mean that makes sense.
We're going to dedicate an entire show. What the fans don't know is that the week after that, I was going to dedicate, an entire show to going over the Doobie Brothers and how we would have booked their set list.
Has nothing to do with wrestling whatsoever. How would you book the Doobie Brothers?
Right.
Oh, I would absolutely have Pat Simmons run in and clothesline somebody, and Michael McDonald he's going to drop the elbow off of the organ, the piano.
All I can ever think of with Michael McDonald is the scene from 40-Year-Old Version where Paul Rudd walks in. He's like, if you play this Michael McDonald video one more time, I will shoot myself.
Dude, I Googled one time out of curiosity how many, because there was a station on Sirius XM called Yacht Rock. He either sang, wrote, or was on background vocals on almost every song. He was on over like 500 albums, if I'm not mistaken. I'm usually a pretty good music buff, but he helped write Van Halen's "I'll Wait." I mean, Michael McDonald was everywhere.
So he's like he's like the Jerry Lawler of music.
Yeah, it's see how you can tie this in. I'm telling you, man. We should make him the Memphis heavyweight champion, like for life.
Well, what is it? I think we had the conversation. Lawler's had like 300 different titles.
Oh my God, at least.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah.
When I broke into the business, Jerry Lawler at one of the first shows I was doing ring crew on, Jerry Lawler won the Jersey All Pro heavyweight title.
And it's like, I think we talked about this, but didn't he wrestle Moff, or he was in the ring with, it was like,
I think I forget who he won it from, but yeah, I think he lost it to Moff, and I think who he ended up losing, he didn't take the pin because, like we said,
that's right. It was a three.
I think it was him. I think it was him, Moff, and like Shane Douglas.
Yeah.
And like, there was no way Jerry Lawler was going to take a burning hammer.
We talked about that. That's right.
There was no way.
Yeah.
That's like I had someone on when I was training look at me, and when they did the gimmick battle royal on WrestleMania all those years ago, and they were like, Sheik's gonna win. And everyone's like, how do you know Sheik's going to win? Like, why wouldn't Hillbilly Jim win or someone cool like that? And they're like, because there's no way the Iron Sheik's going over the top rope.
Exactly. I remember that. That's pretty funny.
Oh man, but guys, I love having you on as always. Mozart, if I can manage to call in while I'm at work, because I'm supposed to be working tomorrow,
Oh,
I
cool.
will
Okay.
absolutely co-host with you because that would be awesome.
Yeah, hopefully I have a couple of well, I don't know, are we still, what's the word, I'm supposed to have Ryan Kavanaugh from ECWA. He's committed to call me.
And
We
so
want
is
to
LA
talk to him
Vin, the
and LA
ECW
Vin.
heavyweight champion. He's
Yeah,
supposed to
so
call in as well.
I can run it, but I'd love to have some help.
I heard Slim was jumping on.
Slim can jump on. We'll just tell him we'll just have LA Vin shut him down,
Right.
We'll tell Slim we talked about AEW last night, man. I can't get into AEW with you, brother.
Yeah, sorry. We just talked about it.
Yeah, you missed it. You didn't get your invite to Steve's show? Must have got lost in the mail.
Yeah, I sent it. Yeah. Oh
Must have
man,
got lost in the email. Maybe it went to your spam folder. I don't know. Poor Slim. That's
we'd
great.
still be
I
talking about
love Slim,
AEW.
though.
Yeah,
I love Slim,
yeah,
though.
yeah. I
Oh
want to
man,
see AEW do amazing. I just feel like you said, hire you to fix the booking. That's number one. And then two is please, if you want to pick your fan base, that's great. But don't just cater to that. Like, man, if you closed out kids, and I believe they have, you've closed out a large part of your market.
kids force parents to buy tickets and action
Absolutely.
figures and toys and all that stuff.
Yeah.
All right, guys, but I appreciate you being on as always. We're gonna close out for the night because we went 2 hours and I was planning on us being closer to 1 hour. So let's get this done. Like I said, this is what happens when we start talking though, is we go on rants. So Legion, as always, I appreciate you being here. We will be following up soon with we're going to cover TNA's Emergence pay-per-view that's coming out that's coming on this next weekend on August 15th. That's when their pay-per-view is. Excuse me. Later in the month, we will also have AEW's Forbidden Door. WWE is doing Clash in Paris. And also, I will be covering Progress's next show, High Voltage, which I'm super excited about that. Thank you again for Progress contacting us to watch their stuff and review it. And Legion, if you like what you see, hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the follow, whatever the options are, and check out Howard and Mozart on VOC Nation, obviously, and maybe soon on the Lariat network. I don't know. I don't know anything. Corporate espionage. But as always, guys, thank you for coming
do what
on.
I'm told, Steve.
Exactly. I can't tell everything. There's things in the background, guys.
Yes,
But Legion, thank you. And as always, tuck your chin when you bump.